Alright, we're here. Hello everyone, how are we all doing today? Well, I'll tell you how I'm doing today, or at least how I was doing today. I was a little bit confused, because going into this weekend, up until now, there has generally been very concise films to review every weekend. The Minions movie, the Thor movie, those were very, very obvious choices. However, going into this weekend, I had two problems. The first one was that neither of the two options, Paws of Fury or Where the Crawdads Sing, I think that is what it's called, have any really big draw to them specifically, other than Where the Crawdads Sing being a book adaptation. And number two was, I really had no interest in watching either of them. They both looked really dumb and boring to me. However, as I sat there and frantically wondered which one I should attend about an hour or so before the dual showtimes they were both going on at 3 p.m., I realized I have an audience of people that probably know what they want to see more than I do. So I put a little poll out there for y'all, and y'all went in overwhelming response to the answer that I did not think would get the support, and that was Paws of Fury. I don't know what that says about my audience, that y'all wanted to see Paws of Fury over Where the Crawdads Sing, but I'm not going to judge you either way. So I made my merry way to the AMC, which I go to see these movies at, and by golly, let me tell you, I was the only person in the theater for the first debut showing at the theater on opening night, and I was like, wow, for a kids movie to be empty at a 3 p.m. opening night screening, I am very concerned. And you know what? Some of that concern was warranted, some of that concern was not. But the one thing that I can definitively say after leaving Paws of Fury is that it is incredibly confusing. I bet when you sickos voted for Paws of Fury on the poll, you did not expect me to come back from it and have an actual in-depth and rather analytical take, did ya? I bet you were like, oh haha, Nickelodeon children movie bad and going to be bad and looks bad. Because if you've watched the promotional campaign for this film and you don't know any of the backstory about it, it looks not good. It looks bad. It looks very, very childish, very immature, very, very dumb. So that is what I thought I was going to get when I went into this, but lo and behold, it's kinda that, but also kinda not. So let's go through this chronologically. Let me walk you through my step-by-step process of consuming Paws of Fury. So I get to the theater, the trailers start, the trailers end, and then the first thing on screen is a Disney-style Nickelodeon short of their series Big Nate. Now, they have a lot of these that have been released, but this one is about a hamster. And I'm like, it starts off and it's a bunch of kids making ice cream. It's like, okay, harmless enough, yada, yada, yada. Nickelodeon doesn't really have much to it. And then a dream sequence happens because of a sugar coma that all the children are in. And Nate dreams that this hamster is giant and has like a man body and constantly defecates out or gives birth to, I genuinely could not differentiate, multiple other baby hamsters that start overflowing. There's also a musical number about how the hamster doesn't want to be contained and kept in a pocket and should rather be let out free, loose into the world, allowed to explore, is what I was trying to get there. And then, of course, he wakes up, it's a dream, but the hamster actually does end up escaping. I haven't seen a children's property that is that much like an acid trip in my life. Oh my god, I thought I didn't even fully comprehend what I was watching when I was watching it. But it is something not of this realm. So the short ends and I am in utter shock and disbelief. I can't even process what I've been witness to, and I'm alone in the theater and I'm scared and I'm terrified, but I'm like, okay, that was odd. Let's get onto this really simple, basic kung fu children's samurai movie. And then the movie starts. And the movie's going on for like 15 minutes to a half an hour. And I am utterly and completely shocked. What is going on here? The animation is actually pretty okay on this. The voice actors, the cast of this is actually pretty good. You got George Takei, you got Mel Brooks is in this, Michael Cera, Samuel L. Jackson, all very impressive things. Ricky Gervais is a villain, and not only is the voice cast good and the voice acting good, but you know what else is good? The jokes, the writing. This film has been marketed as a silly slapstick goofball comedy. But in all reality, in the first half an hour, I'm hearing metaphors and allegories for racism, for police brutality, for a bunch of different things, and I am shocked. I am so in awe of what's going on screen. It's nuts. It's insane. I'm like, am I going to enjoy this? This is really, really good thus far. They're setting up an interesting story. Sure, it's kind of basic and simplistic, but the satire that's going on here is really, really well done. And then the movie continues. And the thing about a setup is at a certain point there needs to be a payoff. And that payoff never happens. The film continues to go on, but nothing develops. Our main character at the start of the film, he's this kind of wimpy dog who can't do anything, and literally, he only becomes more insufferable by thoughts of delusions of grandeur, if you will. He thinks he's the best because, I won't get into spoilers if you even care about that, but he thinks he did something. He actually didn't. And throughout the film, he just becomes more and more arrogant and annoying. There's no character development at all. And throughout this whole time, he doesn't progress as a samurai at all whatsoever. In fact, his skill level maybe gets worse at a certain point or just stays the same. And the story doesn't really go. There's a natural progression. The whole storyline is, hey, we need to tear down this town. Let's send the dog there and let's get them all out of the town. Because they'll kill the dog, and then the whole town will disappear and get arrested, and then blah blah blah. And then it progresses, and then he meets Samuel L. Jackson's character, who was an ex-samurai, and they train together. Very, very basic stuff. But all the while, at the beginning, it's acceptable because there is this really, really great satirical humor going on that's poking fun both at just genre trends of these types of films from like DreamWorks-ish, also poking fun at fourth wall breaks. The opening screen the title comes down, and then they're ambushing, and they run into the title and say, who put that there? And they're like, the title department. And sure, it's a little ham-fisted, but it's funny, and it's nice to see in a film that I was expecting absolutely nothing out of. But the problem is nothing ever really happens. The story is completely abandoned, or the progression of the story, that is, and the development of the characters and the development of the relationship between the characters for the sake of humor. And as it goes on, it seems like the writers remembered, oh no, we have a story to write. Let's just abandon that and do the most generic thing possible and focus all of our attention on the humor. But as it goes on, the humor gets progressively worse and worse, and the satirical element, I don't even know if I want to use this word, the relatively biting satirical elements that are going on are kind of abandoned for, haha, you're sitting on the horse the wrong way. That's so crazy. And it doesn't amount to anything. So there's this whole great potential going on in the first third, I'd say. And then it just peters out. It just sputters and it completely halts. And I was so confused. I was like, wow, what's going on here? So after leaving the theater, I went to the Letterboxd page to review it, as I always do, and I look at the cast and crew to get myself familiar for the review when I get home, and lo and behold, it looks like the head writer on this film is Mel Brooks, and suddenly everything makes sense. Mel Brooks, to me, is a talented person. I really liked Young Frankenstein. I thought that Spaceballs was good. I don't even want to get into Blazing Saddles, but I think he's really good at comedic timing and writing and designing jokes. The problem with Mel Brooks films for me always are he very much does not know how to balance story elements and comedic elements. The reason why films like Young Frankenstein and Spaceballs work so well is he is operating within the parameters of the films being parodies. And the humor and the story is kind of just, hey, this story is a parody of this original product. And so you don't really have to worry about developing characters or anything like that. The story's kind of already laid out in front of you. It's almost a copy and paste timeline type thing. So you can focus on having the story almost told through these jokes, these hilarious jokes, these parodical jokes, and it works because because you've been given this formula to go along with, you can focus your attention on the jokes. The problem with this movie is you don't have, sure, it's kind of like a satire parody of like Kung Fu, kind of DreamWorks Animations films, but that's not enough draw alone. You need to actually have the story there, and Mel Brooks couldn't write that, it seems. Mel Brooks was like, okay, we'll make them laugh, and hopefully that'll distract them from the fact that there's no character development, the fact that our main character is absolutely insufferable and is in all reality almost an antagonist of the film if there weren't even worse people out there, and just rushing just storylines along for and pretending that we didn't even notice they were there in the first place. It's really, really frustrating because if they had Mel Brooks to write the humor and they had a competent, well-versed animated story writer, I think that this could have worked really well. But you have to have an equal amount of both things, and this film just does not have that. So it ultimately ends up being a failure when it could have been one of the biggest surprises and one of the better animated comedies of 2022. And it's a shame too, because as I said, the voice acting is good, the animation is good. If the story was there and they were able to develop the character in a natural way and they were able to develop the relationships between the characters in natural ways, this could have probably ended up being somewhere around 7 for me. But where it is right now is just a really great satire and a really dumb, basic, incompetent kids movie fighting it out. And at the end of the day, they kind of mesh into one thing and it ends up just being mediocre. So ultimately, at the end of the day, I'm going to give Paws of Fury a 4 out of 10. It's almost average, but that absolute incompetency with the story writing just drags it down too much for me. But I will say, I definitely had more to say about this film than I thought I would, and it is a really intriguing property to me, and perhaps there will be another video on this in the future. You never know. So that's all I have to say for this video. I hope you're having a wonderful rest of your day. Monday, Schaefer Ellis Productions video essay. Wednesday, 1,000 subscriber update / Q&A / channel thing, whatever it's going to be. And Friday, review of a movie that I'm very excited to review, which is Nope. That is the schedule for next week. I'm going to explain a lot in the update video. That is all for me. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will talk to you in the next one. Goodbye.